All right.
Okay.
So now, we'll just wait a little bit for folks to come in.
We'll just wait a little bit. Hopefully, yeah. So how's it been, Anna? I mean, how long did you plan this? I mean, it's like, you know, the email came out of the blue and, oh, there's a festival. Wow, okay. So how did it come about?
Honestly, it was a bit fast. I think it was like in October or November that Amanda and I were talking about how we weren't sure what was happening to start the decade. And so we just said to each other, well, maybe ELP should do something. And so this was going to be like a little small, informal, casual thing. And now it is a huge thing. And that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Because really, yeah, like we don't know either how to start the decade, because we are not sure whether to wait for UN to launch it. Then you can start it at your level here, at Malaysia level or at your state level. So we're not sure. So, but most of what I've seen is people just, you know, people have started it on their own. Yeah, and I think it's nicer that way, because it's like it's not owned by so-called, someone has to start it, then it's, yeah, we're in a decade.
Yeah. I think there was an official launch event at the Cherokee Nation last week.
Yeah.
I think that was like a UNESCO licensed.
Really? That was it?
Event.
That's the one? I saw that.
I think so, yeah. But I think there are a lot of other folks just doing grassroots events. Like it's like Mong said and like Christine said in their talks, like don't wait for the government, just get started.
Yeah, I like that one, don't wait, because it's not gonna move if we don't wait. Hello, thank you, Josiah.
Everyone. Or good
the
evening.
moderator.
Hello.
Okay, thank you. Josiah's the chat thread moderator. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much to Josiah.
All right.
So Josiah will put here. Josiah, you will put there.
Yeah, let me give you co-host, Josiah. I'm very happy. We were nervous about like Zoom bombing or people being unpleasant or anything like that, but there has been no one being unpleasant. So it's wonderful.
I saw that info that you gave. Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? Because there have been cases. Hey, Josiah.
So I've made Josiah a panelist just so she can have moderation power here. And then we can go ahead and get started in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
All right. So I see people have joined us. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming back for the closing session of the 4th day of the Festival of Indigenous Languages. Just the usual announcements. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but we are recording these sessions. So if we could, sorry, I'm just looking at Alice's comment here. It was great when we could see all the attendees. Yes, so at all of the coffee chat sessions, everyone will be able to have their video on. We just didn't want to overwhelm anyone during the webinars. So as we all know, this is being recorded. So if you ask a question, your name may appear in the recording. Keep that in mind. And we are looking forward to this wonderful talk. I will let Pat introduce our speaker.
All right, thank you, Anna. So yeah, Kopisanangan, Osanong Kaswabon, hello and good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, but it's 9:04 a.m. in Sabah. Ngaran ko na po nga Patricia Lajumin, Mantat Okpul Kito Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia. So my name is Patricia Lajumin, and I'm from Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysian Borneo. So I'd like to just welcome everyone again to day 4 of the first half of the Endangered Languages Project Festival of Indigenous Languages. And I'm very honored to be invited by Anna and Amanda to be a part of this festival. And I'm really excited to welcome my colleague, Jeannet Stephen. How are you doing, Jen? Okay.
So thank you so much, Pat. I'm doing good. Great. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So internet willing, nothing will go wrong. So before we start the session, I'm just going to introduce Jen. Jeanette heads the Language and Linguistics cluster at the Borneo Research Institute for Indigenous Studies here at Universiti Malaysia Sabah. She holds a PhD from the University of Auckland, New Zealand, and is one of the 2021 Endangered Language Fund's Language Legacies grant recipients for the Ibunda project, which is short for Indigenous Literacy in Books, Unlocking Developments and Achievements project. She believes that everyone plays a role in revitalizing, reclaiming, and promoting the indigenous languages because there's still a lot to do. And she's a receptive bilingual in both Kadazan and Dusun languages, and she continues to self-learn her mother tongue. So that is for Jen. Would you like to take it from here, Jen?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Pat, colleague. Pat and I are at the Borneo Research Institute for Indigenous Studies, and I thank her for willing to be the host for this event. And before I start, I'd like to say thank you so much to the Indigenous Languages Project, Anna, Amanda, and her team. How many numbers of you for having this festival. We were just talking just now how everyone is starting their own celebration to start the decade, and it's really wonderful to be involved, irrespective of time zones, lands, or because we're far away in Malaysian Borneo. If any of you have been to Sabah, we're in Southeast Asia and in Malaysia and in the Borneo part of Malaysia. So yeah, my name is Jeanette, and it's my session for this morning here in Sabah with Pat. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have a different format compared to the previous speakers, where although I am the speaker listed, I'll be engaging Pat as well for the talk or the sharing. And before that, let me just also introduce my colleague, Patricia, who's a research fellow with the Language and Linguistics cluster here at BorIIS, or Borneo Research Institute for Indigenous Studies. Prior to joining academia, Pat has worked as a research officer with the Kadazan and Dusun Language Foundation, a nonprofit making research institute working with local communities in projects related to language preservation, promotion, and development. Her stint in Kadazan and Dusun Language Foundation continues to inspire her work in advocating for Indigenous language revitalization in Sabah. Despite not growing up speaking her native Dusun language, she continues to self-learn, and therefore our same platform, we don't speak the language per se, but we continue to self-learn, and there's a story into that. Yeah, we'll go to that later. And she hopes to be a fluent speaker before the end of the International Decade for Indigenous Languages. Did I get that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, right. So that's a goal, right? That's a goal if you want to have a hashtag.
Yeah.
So this morning, so just feel free to give us a question if you want. We're all very, I personally am very humbled to be in the lineup of very established already, very renowned speakers compared to where or what we're at right now. Very new and still I would call fledgling maybe the activities, because at the uni, Pat, as you know, even though the uni is about 20-something, 25, 26 years old, the Indigenous niche is about the same age as BorIIS, because BorIIS is what brought the niche into the uni. So compared to our network of mentors out there, like the Kadazan and Dusun Language Foundation, Summer Institute of Linguistics, Pacos Trust, so like Madam Anne Lasimbang, Madam Rita Lasimbang, and our colleagues, Dr. Mark Miller, and friends at SIL Sabah, SIL Malaysia, Mr. Jomin, who's the director for mother tongue-based multilingual education. All these colleagues outside of the uni has had a long history of Indigenous languages revitalization, either in terms of education, setting up their own community language center, or creating dictionaries, materials for language teachers, materials for language teaching, having conferences and seminars, and recently we had the collaboration with Kadazan and Dusun Foundation and Pakostras and SIL with academics from Payap University in Thailand to bring ethno arts in helping the teachers, the heritage language schools teachers, to create materials. So to the question of, like, for example, where we've been, I'd like to say that we've been on a road less traveled. It is not something of a easy decision to concentrate on the niche. Because if people were to ask me, do you speak the language? I get that a lot, yeah. I had to do like a lot of self-reflection before doing and committing to what I want to do in this field, because it's not within the uni. By the time I came back from New Zealand, there's no outlet to completely say focus on the indigenous languages, whether you want to revitalize it or you want to do research on it. It's more like your own thing that you want to do. Maybe it's like individual, maybe, or in silo mode. Because coming back from New Zealand, where I was there for about 3.5 years, the movement with revitalizing Maori and the support that's within the uni over there and many universities over there, and the communities were very instrumental in pushing for my own decision to go into this field, to do something. Because like some speakers in from the beginning, from the keynote, and all the way to Prof. Mong, who says we cannot wait, and there are going to be many obstacles. A lot of people will question, or maybe even, let's say, there are so many dialects, which one do you want to concentrate on? Why are you working on that dialect and why not your dialect? But also in terms of like individuals, why are you focusing on that? Is there money in that? Is there fame and glory? Do you get promoted early if you go into this field? So really, I would say why I include Pat in this talk is also because I was telling Anna and Amanda that I'm having I would like to say that I'd like to build capacity, because I have only around 10 more years of service within the uni, and I'd like to leave behind someone who can also bring other people or other young people, younger than Pat. Pat and I have around 15 years of difference, to continue the work. Because if let's say I decided to retire early, then who's gonna help Pat, and what's gonna happen to the whole program? Because if like I like to believe, people come and go, institutions come and go, programs come and go, directors come and go and whatnot, but the thing should stay there. The work, the passion should stay there and should be able to be built upon by others who come after you. So where we've been is we've gone on to a place where they were already NGOs, they were already, like I said just now, a lot of our colleagues outside of the uni circle who are already on a very clear focus and clear mission of what they want to do to help the indigenous languages of Sabah. And all I did was sort of like extended a bridge to include the uni into that network. And so what we've been doing the whole time since BorIIS was set up in 2018 was to learn, to observe, and to understand the workings, the mechanisms, because as a new person inside the belt of cooperation or the network, I don't feel that we should come in and say, this should be that should be it, or here I've got funding for you. Rather, in the indigenous way, we listen and learn first from the elders. And I'm so glad to say that the elders, the networks, partners have been so embracing and so helpful, so ready to give their gems of knowledge. I'll stop here for now and let Pat continue. Your point on it, Pat, where we've been and what's going on.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Yeah, I got into working in Indigenous language revitalization work right after uni, in fact. I graduated with a bachelor's in English and communication, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. I mean, the obvious pathway to my fellow graduates was to just become English lecturers, but at the time I wasn't that keen on teaching, which is ironic because I am now teaching English in uni. But because I was still having a lot of doubts about what I want to do in the future, my dad told me that he knows someone who has an NGO that works with languages, and if I would be interested to just work there for a while. So I thought, well, it might be interesting. I'm not sure what it is. So I went there, and that place was the Kadazan and Dusun Language Foundation, which was it's a research institute, and the foundation, and it has a research institute arm, and you have the CEO, Rita Simbang, was she's still the CEO, and she is a Kadazan, she's a linguist for the Kadazan language. She's a trained linguist, and I told her that I'm interested in your work, but I don't know what can I do for you, because I did not grow up speaking Dusun, one of the indigenous languages, my own native tongue. I don't necessarily have the linguistics training that you would need to do linguistic related, or rather revitalization, language revitalization work. So I told her I'm interested, but I really don't know what I can do for you. So she said, well, we'll find something for you. So, just if you're interested to give it a try, just come. And I have to say that going there, working there right after uni was probably the best decision I've made, rather than maybe just going straight to doing my master's and eventually becoming a lecturer. But having been given a chance to walk in that particular pathway was a real eye-opener. So the kind of work that I did as a non-native tongue speaking, non-linguist person was, in the beginning, all I did was to prepare reports, newsletters in English. They've been doing that before this, but they use Malay because it's a newsletter that you would disseminate to your to the public, and not everybody speaks the indigenous language, so they had to use a language of wider communication. So it was published in English and Malay, so I worked with that. And then later on, when I was given the project to coordinate, I then had the chance to be the main coordinator for some of those projects. So one of the projects that I was very lucky, I think, in my 3-year stint to work on is a project to introduce an indigenous language, a pilot project to introduce indigenous language into the formal school system. And the project lasted the whole 3 years that I was, it started when I joined, and then it ended just before I left to join academia. But I would say that despite my shortcomings, I've learned so much that it feels like it's only 3 years, but working with people at especially the grassroots community really changes you in ways that I don't think I would have learned if I was just working from a university and then just doing language revitalization works. So some of the things that I learned is having patience and managing expectations when you're working with the grassroots community for any particular project. So what you have to do, or what I've learned, is that you have to work with their time. So you can say that I'm going to start this project or a program with them at 10 a.m., but you have to be prepared for your program to maybe realistically start at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. after lunch. So you do have to work with their time. Your time is what do you call this? Sometimes it's not what do you call this? You don't want to impose your needs and expectations on the community, so you work with them instead. And one of the projects that we work with a very rural community, the houses are far apart from each other, and we wanted them, so you can't exactly go to each houses and do the program with them. So you would pick a community hall. But even though you've set up to have the program there, they are, especially that project was with Indigenous women. They're mothers, they are farmers, they in the morning up to noon, they're busy at their farm. So you just have to be on standby. And one way how we go about that would be to coincide any of the programs with a community activity. Like if they have this a project that they're doing, for example, they're going to clean up or they're going to clear some of their lands for the next planting season. So you go there and you, of course, you have to get the permission from the village authority to let you in, and so that they can introduce you and say that, oh, so and so, they're doing this project, and we're gonna let's listen to what they have to say after lunch. So it all goes together. Food really brings people together, so you use that as a vehicle to do the program with them. And so that means that if you were hoping to start at 10 and maybe leave at 5 p.m., you might end up leaving at night because it starts later than you expected. Something else that I've learned is to be flexible with project milestones. And like I said, I was in charge of doing or writing up reports, and a lot of these reports were meant for the funding organization for the projects. So when you're writing them up, things definitely, or not definitely, but things sometimes will take a little longer to get done than your original timeline. So when you're doing the report, you don't want to make it sound like the project did not achieve what it's supposed to achieve at that time. But what you want to focus on are the what do you call this? Not the big milestones, like you've achieved something, like you've passed a particular milestone, but more like the small wins. Like, for example, if they were supposed to complete this task and they didn't get to do it, maybe your small wins is that they realize how complex the task is, and then the people that you work with decide that you know what, we need more people, and so they get people to come in and work on the project without you having to tell them that maybe you need more people to do the work. So that definitely was I think you need to have that you have to accept that you have to be flexible anytime. And when I worked with KLF, I was in my early 20s, mid 20s. That was like 10 years ago. And I noticed that the young people at the time, not many of them are interested in, or rather, yeah, very few are interested in language revitalization work. So part of that reason is a lot of them grew up like me. We don't speak the language. We were never taught, or we were never raised speaking the language. Our parents, our grandparents do, but my generation, we were just, the expectation is we would learn Malay, English. Those of you who went to Chinese school like I did, picked up Mandarin instead. So I consider myself part of this lost generation of young people. But although they may not be interested in language revitalization work, they find ways to express their indigenous identity. So they look into like the traditional craft work, or rather indigenous craft work. I won't say that it's traditional because they've put their own spin to it. They modernize the how to do crafts work. Some of them play the musical instruments, the gongs and the sompoton, which is this bamboo. I wish I have a picture to show, but never mind. Bamboo flute made of bamboo. Dancing, singing the songs, storytelling, food. So they don't speak the language, but they express that identity in all those areas. So I will note that it can get very lonely when you're young and you're into the work, and it can get demotivating because you don't feel like anybody understands what you feel or the complexity of the work. So it's really important to have a supportive, I think, community of practitioners, people who work in similar fields. So yeah, that's where I've been, Jen. Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah, I really like that part where you say it could be even, if you were working at your age in the 20s. So if I'm already like in my late 40s right now, and if, like I said, when people don't understand why are you doing what you're doing, it's very difficult, it's slow, it's hard work. What are the gains? Can you see the gains much? Because a lot of measurement these days are talking about key performance index and what are the key performance index. And because to just come up with one dictionary takes many years of collection and then clarifying it, and then most of the time, if you're working on fundings that are limited, we are then banking on the good graces of the communities who are so fired up to save, to revitalize, to bequeath or gift their language to their children. And so most of the time it's heartening. So all these somewhat what you call things that demotivate is turned on its back by seeing the smiles of the communities when they see their language on a list, and then they ask you when it's going to come up, online, or when it's going to be in a booklet, or after they finish a workshop that you help organize, and they say, oh, I didn't know that we could learn to do that. So and that's partly the drive to stay in the field despite all those things. And I agree with you, Pat. It gets lonely sometimes, and that is why it is really important to surround yourself with positive people who work within the same field, such as this amazing festival that Anna and Amanda have come up with, and also previously before that the workshop for the collective, and I was telling Pat all about what it was all about, and then so it's really something that sometimes you don't know what's going to happen if you embark on a project or you join some people not to mention that we are very quite long way. Like, I agree. Thank you so much, Lorna. Lorna's been very motivating, very inspiring, emailing me information, news. What's happening, what's there, what's out there. So the connection with people of like-minded passion and focus and goals is very important if you want to be in this field. There's another one that I'd probably like to share. When Pat mentioned that you learn patience and you learn working with their time, because we have to understand working with because sometimes we do know there are some researchers who give out set of instructions. Okay, bring everybody here at 8 sharp. It doesn't work that way. And so working with the indigenous communities make me learn more of my indigeneity, my own people and my identity. Thank you, Mutang. And it's kind of instrumental to just reflect and see whether you can do something. I mean, they're not going to expect a Scopus publication, but more like, are we creating speakers? Yes. So sometimes we have to balance it, that we in the uni, as most of you are also, I think, in the uni, whether you can rush from a workshop and then put down everything on your notes and then come up with a publication. But on top of that, I feel that I have to balance that, my end of my commitment to uni, because that's work as well. It's got to be responsible, but also to the communities. What after accessing their time and their hospitality, their interest, because I take them out from their activities, right? Maybe they'd rather be sitting down, making a mat, and then, if you go there and take their time off, one mat is not done, not sold, for example. Yeah. So what have I done to give back to my community after I've taken time off from them? So often when I sit down and I said, because sometimes it's tempting to just come up with programs upon programs, so that you get to post things, you get to upload things, you get to maybe tell your boss, oh, I've done this or that, yeah. But I often have to tell myself that it's what I can do to the community. Is it going to be meaningful to them, or is it just going to be a waste of their time? But it's a win for me. So if that is not balanced, then we'll just scrap the project. And I'm really glad that Pat is on board with that. It's an important aspect or factor to have the people working with you to be on the same objectives, that you understand how to get to where you want to be without using the communities, without using their time for your gains only. They need to be prioritized. So for example, if you promise a project like the grant that I received, thank you so much, Endangered Language Funds. So we're going to start in March. Yeah. Last year, we couldn't manage to do anything because of the control in movements due to COVID-19. But the pilot work for that was fantastic, because our friend who's in charge of the mother tongue-based multilingual education, Joe Min, and he was also stuck where he was. So we were just communicating using Zoom in limited capacities, such as it was the internet here. And we managed to get translators. The translator had their children contribute to the drawing. Jomin also did the drawing, but it was so very nice that people were, it was not, can you give us a letter of appointment? Why we need to do this? There was no questions like that. They were just happy to contribute because they know it's going to be used as a material for their heritage schools in where the teachers were, which are closed right now because of the pandemic. They haven't opened it yet. But so that is also part of the joy of working in this field for me. Because if people ask, what's a English language teacher doing in this field? I believe that, like I said in the bio when I was asked, the field is huge. We need a lot more people, definitely. And you can come from any background, any training background. If you have the passion and you want to do what's due to the communities, because the languages were probably policy and whatnot, the languages are not passed down as it should have. And so you have the lost generation, as Pat said, us, who are struggling to get back to those languages, to what should be, to what is the normal, because right now it's not normal. We need to get back to the normal where I could tweet to my mom in Kadazan or Dusun, because she could to me. And so I was like, yay, the other day, right? So we are slowly moving towards that, and we look so much towards those in this field already, the speakers here who've been giving us gems of information on staying motivated, staying the course, and just move the needle, however long it will take probably, but if it's moving, then it's already fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's a bit on the where we've been. So shall we go on to where we're looking at, Pat?
Yeah.
For the future.
So,
yeah.
do you want me to start?
You want to go? Yeah,
Sure.
you go first.
Okay. So, when I started my work with KLF, every single project you learn something new, and there's always a new challenge that will change the way you think about how you work with Indigenous people. I mean, I can't quantify how many times I have been challenged by my notion of this is how you should work for language revitalization work. But I was informed by my university education, which was very rigid and tends to favor professionalism over the actual reality of the method. So now that I'm back in university again, teaching English, but now working with the Research Institute for Indigenous Studies and coming up with projects and working again with the people that I've worked 10 years ago. So it's sort of a homecoming. And the fact that the beginning this year is the start of the International Decade for Indigenous People, it feels like it's a really great time to be alive, to be doing Indigenous language revitalization work. So I guess if I'm just talking about moving forward with the work, these are maybe feels a bit like maybe just personal goals, but I think it's also maybe Jeanette's goal. What do you call this for the decade? So one of the things that I really want to see is for the university to be a place for young people, Indigenous young people especially, to have opportunities to take the Indigenous language classes, because we have those now, but it's limited in terms of what is on offer. So we want to have more of that. We want them to be able to come to the university to learn more about the indigenous culture. And in the case of people like me, adult learners of indigenous mother tongue, I hope that there is a platform that we could provide for people to reconnect with what we've missed growing up. And also what I want to be able to do is to increase the visibility for language revitalization activities at the grassroots level. Yes, we have a lot of network partners who are working in different language communities, and they are in contact with us. But I think that we can do more. I think the Research Institute has to be a bridge, or it has to continue building bridges for them, so that we will have sustainable programs, whether it is a individual level program or community level program. I was looking at what are young people doing now with the language, because when I first started the work, there were just a few people who would post contents on social media, so YouTube or Facebook, about, I mean, they do the cultural part, but language learning was, there are some people who are interested, but they don't go beyond that. So it's like just beginners level, and then they stopped. I think part of it is because of visibility. So if you don't get recognized for the things that you do, and people lose interest, or it gets too much and you don't get the support, then why would you want to, you still would be interested, but it's difficult to continue. So I want to have the university hopefully to give them recognition, so that they have incentives to continue these programs. So yeah, those are things that I'm really looking forward to, working with the institute this decade.
Okay,
How
thank
about
you,
you, Jen?
Pat. Yes, you mentioned about the classes, the language classes. In Sabah, we have around 34 indigenous languages. But then again, depending on whether you call it a dialect or a language, then there's also some say 54. But at the moment, we only have one on offer, the standard indigenous language at the uni. And in Malaysia, we're very happy that the Ministry of Education has a policy for the language learning, though it could be, I think there are rooms for improvement, and we are working with the director of the ethnic language unit. She's an indigenous herself, so I really believe that our colleague over there has a vision as well in this decade to utilize the decade for more avenues for learners to learn their languages within their localities, within their specific places. But that's all in the works, and so that's really very, very positive to hear of their positive response to the institute's recommendation. We're also looking at doing a trial or a pilot Kadazan online class with Kadazan and Dusun Language Foundation, where we would engage an influencer to engage with Generation Z students to learn the language in a format that is more nicer and attractive to them compared to just chalk and talk. And so that will be started somewhere March as well. So we'll update you on that. And myself, for moving forward as we end this talk, My aspirations for the decade is to, like Pat said just now, yeah, the communities are the key here. The communities are the key, because you can have as fantastic a project or a proposal or a working paper, but if the communities aren't giving the buy-in, aren't moving towards where you want to bring them, or towards where they don't want to go, or want to go, So what it boils down to is the communication between, I believe, researchers, those such as Pat and I, who are quite new to the game compared to our colleagues in the networks outside of the uni, who are already very experienced and have a good network already with the communities. Yeah. So for us in the uni, it's something that we need to work on, is communication, to gain trust, to inform, and to find ways to engage. Because at a recent feedback forum where we had to present our findings of a research on the standard indigenous language, we had a lot of feedback that requires a lot of understanding on our part, because we can come to understand an issue not as speakers, but speakers have their own understanding and wants or requests to what the problem is with their language. So it's a lot of, and sometimes tempers could flare in a session where, if you say, okay, here's what it is, and then if elders say, no, that shouldn't be like that. Yeah, but so I believe, like Lorna said in the keynote, to always find a way to engage and find positive platforms of agreement, and not to be bogged down, I think, by disagreements or personal negative mindsets, because the bigger picture is, both for us at the uni or even the communities, is whether we can create new speakers of the many languages here. We can't just be talking about just one language. We need to be also bring the other languages, because if you see on the IGIT scale, the scale for where the languages are, and there are many, right? But we use IGIT scale here. So Kadazan, for example, is at 6B and it's threatened. There are many other languages as well that are 6B context. So this engagement with the elders need to be more. I need to be more creative, I should say, and to find ways on how to engage more positively to get to the goal, which is, let's move on to create more speakers and create a conducive environment to create these speakers. So to start with, we need to be having the buy-in from the community, the indigenous communities themselves, that the homes should be where the language passing down happen. And so there's no set ways. Different families, experiment. You need to experiment, and you need to find your own strategy on how to pass them down. And we all know that there's this gap between the elders and the young, like us, Pat, who are struggling to learn on our own, but we also are so grateful for elders who are understanding and are patient to teach, to correct the pronunciation sometimes, yeah. And the most wonderful ones is the ones who wait for you to ask when you have a lot of questions, and they patiently answer you, and so on and so forth. And so like it's sometimes I have that session with my mom where I'm almost like a RA trying to write down whatever she's saying, because I want to make sure I have all the information down. But okay, and also probably the last one is coming back again to how it feels as where we're coming from in speaking today, where you can hear words such as like it's difficult, it's lonely, and it's kind of like hard work to reach to where a lot of the others are already right now, where you have degrees and programs in Indigenous languages. So we are still moving towards that. We are working towards that, and therefore, before you have all those programs, I think what we need to do here, at least for our context, is to build people and to make to have our youngs more interested not only in the revitalization aspect of it, but to work in this field. So we need to give more incentives maybe for academic staffs who are working towards these goals, and provide scholarships maybe to have them stay and figure out how to do the work while getting their qualification as well, because it's not like something that is easy. I think there's a lot of challenges. Also, other fields are like that, but we really feel that we could do with more, so that Jen doesn't call you all the time. Yeah, but okay. So I think that's about it for my end of the sharing. If we look forward to a positive decade, I'm inspired, and this festival is one part of positively reinvigorating oneself, because you can't wait for people to invigorate you. You all wait for anybody else to motivate you. You got to motivate yourself. Doesn't matter if it's slow, if it's not working out. There are going to be ways, and it's going to work out. So I'm super hopeful. Pat, anything? Last word?
Yeah, I think the key to a lot of the work is just more communication, especially when you're working with elders. I've realized that sometimes the barrier comes from how we were educated, because we go to school and the way that we think is basically shaped by the teachers that we have in those schools. And so when you talk to elders, how they see some things are informed not just by whatever education that they have been een to receive, but also because they've been there, they've lived for so long, and they've seen things. They've been alive at a time when the language was actively spoken, and you barely see anyone not being able to speak the language. And to come to this point in time when most of the youngsters are not speaking at all must be really heartbreaking for them. So that's one thing that we definitely have to, we just have to do more communication. Yeah, so I think we're good to stop actually. I think we can start taking in some questions.
Yeah, just probably one or two. Thank you so much, Lorna and Mutang, all the fellow Bornean from Montreal watching.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope we've given the sharing has been useful in any way. We definitely are learning every time we listen in to all the speakers here. We're sorry if we can't be long. Thank you, Bridget. We have, there's another engagement at 10 for me. I actually had to be excused from one meeting just now because there was a clash, but this is more important. I feel to be involved in this festival is such an honor. Thank you again so much, both Anna and Amanda and ELP, and hopefully more activities. Just drop us a line. If you ever land in Borneo, our end of the planet here, most welcome to come, and we'll bring you around, see the language, and see, exchange ideas on what could be best. Because definitely everyone's who are not, because we're still very, if you can see a scale where we working to have a program for Indigenous language teachers to be qualified, to be certified. We don't have that yet, so we're working towards that. So you can see the level of height that we need to scale first. Yeah, but so looking forward to everyone's big support and well wishes. Yeah, okay. So, and happy International Decade. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Over to you, Anna.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jeanette and Pat. This was a wonderful talk, and this really did feel like a talk from the heart. I learned so much from your experiences and your reflections on the work you've done. It's really great to hear that there's so much optimism and passion, even at this fledgling stage. Like Lorna said in the chat, everyone was there at some point, right? That fledgling stage is where everybody started. And I'm so excited to see what both of you accomplish going forward, because obviously the passion is there, the dedication is there, and the ability is there. So I can't wait to hear from you later in the decade about everything you've done in the first few years. Thank you both so much for being here today and for sharing. And folks, if you have a question for the Q&A, better drop it in fast because Jeanette has to run shortly. Yes, thank you both so much for making the time to be here and to share about your work. This was wonderful.
It's okay if I think the information is probably overwhelming, and usually when I talk about this stuff, I get very emotional because it's But yeah, thanks, Anna, and everyone. So sorry, I have to go attend that other meeting like right now. Yes, it definitely makes me feel less alone. And in the future, yeah. So
we do have two questions. Do you want to just answer maybe one?
Oh yeah, okay.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, how receptive is the Ministry of Education to your introducing IP languages in schools?
They're very receptive. We've just ended a 2-year research, which was ministry sponsored, and on the path forward for the current Indigenous language in the school system. So what we found out in the 2 years of going around Sabah, getting information on whether they want more or what else could be improved. Most of the communities are very open for that language to stay at school, but also very happy and very looking forward to having their own ethnic language as well, able to be in the system. So that's work moving forward, and it's wonderful that the decade is here to be an impetus for everybody. Thank you so much, United Nations, for giving that for us to like, hey, but it's a decade, so we have we gotta be positive. So yeah, and so the Ministry of Education has been very helpful, very open, and we we hope to keep that positive momentum, positive collaboration with them, especially in crafting. How does that going to work out? You know, having those other languages also in the system. So yeah, something to report to, hopefully before the end of the decade, on whether that has happened, and we hope that will happen. Yeah. Okay, back.
One last question, but yeah, I don't mind answering this one. Do you have a memory that stands out as a particularly proud or exciting moment in your language revitalization work or your own language learning journey? When I was working with KLF, we had to revisit an older project that the foundation did. I was not around when it happened. I think when I was there, it was, I think, 5 years. It's been 5 years since the project ended. But the funding organization in Japan wanted to have like an update on what's going on with the project. So we went back to the women who were part of the project. So basically, what it was a they call it the Moyog Family Literacy Project, which was basically Indigenous women. They tell a story, and then KLF and their what do you call this? The people who were in charge of the project at the time would they would transcribe that and edit the stories into storybooks, and those storybooks are now being used in primary school. The classes for the standard Indigenous language as well. So when we went back there, the mothers who by then some have had 2 more, 3 more kids, they were thinking, oh, they want to know more. They want to know how it was. So just seeing that look in their eyes, like we remember them and we are eager to hear more from them, that made me feel really, really it was a very special moment for me. And that again was I see that as a moment where that taught me that this is why I'm in the work, to make people feel that they matter and their voices are heard, they are visible. So yeah, that's my memory. What about you, Jen, if you have time to just share?
Yeah, just to wrap up, Anna. Yeah, I am so proud of not mine. It was like a whole other people who supported and understood the vision. Because when I came back from the PhD, and I was deputy dean I was appointed as deputy dean for research and innovation. And so after coming back from New Zealand, where you're like immersed in everything indigenous, is great, a lot of support and a lot of facilities to deepen your knowledge and your understanding of the language. And so coming back from that context to Sabah, where we're also big with indigenous issues in culture, tourism, and whatnot, but we don't have a facility. We don't have a niche to go forward to that, except for the networks who are outside, the NGOs already working very, very well in that. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to try this out. I'm just going to put out a paper to the management, and can I set up a small unit? So we just call it a research unit for languages and linguistics. And that was okay. And then so you have to follow procedure. So I submitted that in 2014, I think, or 2015. It took many revisions, many meetings, and somewhat 3 or 4 years later, it was approved, and I just was over the moon. And I thought, wow, okay, so now I can do many things with it, but because it's just a small unit, but we had for the 1 year of its existence before BorIIS was set up, this current institute that I'm in was set up. Then they invited that small unit, would you like to join us? And so it became the cluster that it is now in the institute. And I'm just so happy for that one, because if I hadn't tried that, it wouldn't be, maybe somebody else would, but then I don't know when. And so I would be twiddling my thumbs of waiting for it to happen, right? So I just like, I'm so glad that I had that moment to, just try. Nothing, no harm done, right? And so yeah, even though it was so tiring to revise, and then technical meetings here and there, and then when management said, okay, you can go on your merry way, and so yay! So I was really a proud moment of. I think I could say I probably thought at now, how did I ever have that energy to wait for years for that to happen with the paperwork, because paperwork isn't fun, and some people who are in it in the beginning, like and they got busy with other things already, and in the end you're like, okay, it's gonna happen, is it not gonna happen, is it not gonna happen? But then and I was already over my stint as deputy dean by that time, so you don't have that much say anymore. But I'm super happy that the management at that time, the dean and the vice chancellor, the deputy vice chancellor for research, was very supportive, and also our technical advisors at that time, super helpful as well. And it was established. So that was really one of my proudest days. Of, if I had to like retire early, I was gonna say, yeah, that's the one. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. And we're done. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, drop us a line. Yeah. Okay, take care.
Jeanette, are you willing to have folks contact you later?
Yes.
Drop your email?
Yes, please. We would love to communicate with those who could, continue the conversation. I think it's important, and I can't thank Anna and Amanda enough to have this session, because I know even for Anna and Amanda, with the limitations that you guys have, you're running on passion, power, whatever it is that you're doing, it's amazing. And, like I said, kudos, I'm fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, it's really our privilege to be in the room with so many amazing revitalization folks. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much,
everybody. And a lot of tea and coffee for sure. Running on passion and coffee.
Yes. Yes. So probably in the near future, thank you for probably in the near future when travel is better, and there's a real conference from ELP, we hope to make it there and have the real coffee and tea in person.
Yes, absolutely. But until then, I hope everybody will have a wonderful evening or day wherever you are, and join us in about 10 hours for our next talk by Dr. Ibrahima Cissé from Mali, who will be telling us about language policy and mother tongue education in Mali. So I hope you all can make it. That will also be translated into French. So we will see y'all in a few hours. And thank you again, Jeanette and Pat. This was a wonderful session. It was awesome to learn from you.
Most welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.